This episode of Escape to the Quarter Bin is sponsored by Infinite Realities Comics and Games, located in the heart of downtown Tucker, Georgia, with over 2,700 square feet of new comics, back issues, paperbacks and hardcovers, gaming, action figures, and of course, the quarter bins. You can even call ahead for curbside service. That's Infinite Realities, comics, games, and more. Hey everybody, welcome back to Escape to the Quarter Bin. As always, I'm your host, Adrian Johnson. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe here on the channel. And also, I have a Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/Inazuma Studios, you can go there, and for just $1 a month, you can support the channel and keep these videos flowing. All right, now, I wanted to get into this very small haul that I had this week. It wasn't a big one, unlike previous weeks. But what I think you'll enjoy about these is you'll notice my excitement at these particular books because both feature two of my favorite artists, really reaching the apex of their powers in the early 90s, so let's go ahead and get it started. First, we have Batman, the Sword of Azrael. Whew. All right, these books right here, I wasn't able to find book number 1 in the bins, but I got 2, 3, and 4. And man, this miniseries right here, hot. No pun intended. Just hot on just a number of levels. Oh man, I remember when I first got into comics when I was about 13. It was the books that have, when you would go into comic book stores, comic book shops, you would see them on the walls for like $10, $20, $25. They were that hot. And the reason for that is, at the time, the character Azrael was becoming a major player in the Batman mythos because of this series that led right into him being the replacement for Bruce Wayne once he had his back broken by Bane in Nightfall. And so once the character Azrael, known by his real name, John Paul Valley, once he took over, they changed the costume into a variant of, this Azrael costume. Just did a lot of seismic things, for that, I'd say, 2 to 3 year period where they really changed the character of Batman over to this guy. And it starts here. Now, as I was trying to relate, this book is so hot because, foremost, you have the creative team here. And this is an all-star cast of creators right here. We're talking legend Denny O'Neil on the scripting. You have Joe Quesada, who at this time, hot. I keep saying that because that was the word at the time, just hot. His artwork really just congealed quite quickly over about a year's period, it seemed like. You look at some of his earlier stuff from like 1990, and then in 91, by late 91, he's off to the races. Like, he's pretty much doing this stuff, by the end of 91, heading into 92, and you got Kevin Nowlan on inks. Kevin Nowlan, come on now. Come on. That's just, that's like guaranteeing you that your pencils are going to come back magnificent. Kevin Nowlan is just a fantastic inker, fantastic artist himself, a fantastic everything, letterer, colorist, you name it. He can do it. And then you have Ken Bruzenak on the lettering. and you can tell it's Ken Bruzenak just because of the I don't know how quite to describe it. Just the way that he's putting down his lettering, the actual fonts, the formation of the fonts, and there's a slight tilt that he does, and a slight thickness to his fonts as well that you can tell it's Ken Bruzenak. You know, and most people, I know him as, you know, Howard Chaykin's preferred letterer. They were kind of a team supreme, you know, on everything they do, you know. And, you know, speaking of team supremes, you know, getting back to Quesada and Nowlan, you know, they really are a great team here. And you see them throughout the early 90s, you know, collaborate on a bunch of covers especially. Just some very memorable covers. But here inside of the Sword of Azrael, oh, the stuff is just so tight. It's just so, you know, Quesada's penciling seems like it was just all there, and then you have Nowlan, you know, coming over him and just tightening everything up and making the pencil so naturalistic, you know. This stuff is just, oh, this stuff is so great. Let's skip over to this next issue here. You know, look at how striking these covers are by Quesada and Nowlan. I mean, it's no surprise that these books, you know, turned out to be so hot as they were, you know. And the other thing too about, you know, Quesada and Nowlan is that, you know, even outside of their collaborations in the 90s, you know, they still over the years, you know, held that association, you know, sporadically, but, you know, every time you would see them together, you know, their stuff just really, really popped, you know, like outside of Quesada's preferred anchor for many years, Jimmy Palmiotti, you know, Nowlan, you know, really just hit the spot on his stuff. Oh, like, look at this. Oh, that's lovely too. Like just some oh, just some cool work, man. Oh, jeez. You know, and the other thing too that needs to be made note of is, you know, when Quesada earlier in his career, there was definitely a noted Mike Mignola influence to his work, and the way you could particularly tell that is by Quesada would put a lot of statues in his pages. Not I say a lot. You know, he would put silhouetted statues or statues with heavy shadows, like this one here. You know, and he has a couple of other instances in the series as well. You know, where he would have a statue just like how Mignola would do, and it would be, you know, very much shadowed or silhouetted. You know, and the other telltale sign is this right here. These thick, the wide, stout waist on like Batman on this cover here, you know, like especially when Quesada would draw, you know, figures in silhouette like Batman or Azrael, you know, they would just be very, very stout, and the use of shadows too is very Mignola-esque as well, you know. But yeah, this series, like I was saying, was just so hot back in the 90s, you know, and it led into the changes for Batman for those couple of years. Oh, that's a great shot. Damn. Sorry. I'm just loving this art, man. God, oh, Nowlan is just oh man, they're such a great team, man. Oh. And, you know, the thing is, too, is that, you know, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Quesada, he designed Azrael's costume, you know, and I think he is credited as a co-creator, probably along with Denny O'Neil, if they ever use the character again. Here we go. We got one of those, early 90s tropes of you got to turn the book sideways to appreciate this splash. But when you have somebody like Quesada, doing, this type of stuff, it's worth that turn. You know what I'm saying? Quesada was just one of those artists to where so dynamic. He created just such dynamic images on the covers. Brilliant cover artist, but also inside the composition of the pages too. But what I was getting back to, to kind of close this out, Quesada did help design Azrael, and I think he may be a participation, as far as, if they use the character again. And I remember that even for a couple of years after Nightfall, that you had Night Quest and all of that, Night Quest, the ending, and it just seemed like it just went on and on and on until it was almost like a mercy killing to just end it already. I remember, unrelated note, I remember it finally ended in an issue of Legends of the Dark Knight, like 54 or maybe 64 or something like that. I remember just being so let down, like, that's it? You mean for all these 3 years, all they're going to do is just sit in the Batcave and just talk it out? Bruce Wayne and Azrael, after all this damage that, Jean-Paul Valley, as Bats, as they called him, a conjunction of Azrael and Batman, as Bats, as he became known, in fandom. After all this damn cheese caused, they just going to sit and talk it out, and that's it. Okay, whatever. But Quesada did revisit Azrael one more time, to my knowledge. There was a standalone, like, prestige format 48-page book that he did with inker Jimmy Palmiotti, and I believe, gosh, I'm trying to think if Danny O'Neill wrote that one too. I highly doubt that. I think it was just somebody else doing the scripting, or it might have been Quesada and Palmiotti themselves, because I know that this was in the mid to late 90s, and they had already come out with their own creator-owned character, Ash, a superhero firefighter, if you can believe it. And they had a standalone 48-page book called Azrael Ash, and it came out in like 96, I believe, just off the tailwind of their book, Ash, coming out. And coincidentally, Kevin Nowlan also had a pinup of his own creator-owned character, Terra Nova, in issue 6 of Ash. So once again, there's that Nowlan Quesada connection, still going on there. So here's the end, and I did want to make note of something at the end of issue 4 here. These crazy ads. The Macho Man, Macho Machine, right? Check this out. All right, here is a ad about AIDS awareness, and the artwork is done by a young Travis Charest. And you can tell it's Travis Charest. Just the telltale signs of there's the hair, and this very, very early inking that Charest was doing in his pencils when he first got in. Coincidentally, after Dark Stars, he did do a very, very brief run on Batman as a cover artist. I think he did 2 or 3 covers, like 491, 492, somewhere in there, and that it looks like this stuff. So that's how I knew it was Charest. So, in this issue, you're getting some very early Charest, in this particular ad. And then, you also have Death of Superman that happened earlier in this year. This is 92. This is late in 92. So Death of Superman happened, and they're just continuing that story here, you know. And obviously, Azrael leads into like night gosh, what was it? Nightfall. Then you had Night Quest. Then you had Night's End. So DC was rolling out, you know, their big events, you know, because they were competing with the new threat in the industry of Image Comics and all of that. And speaking of Image Comics, the next book that I'm going to bring up here in the hall has a character that was created by one of those founders of Image Comics, Rob Liefeld, and that is Cable. Cable 1 and 2, and I believe these issues are about 40 pages each. No. I probably overestimate, but these are some thick issues. You can tell. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Cable obviously was created by Rob Liefeld and very, very popular. Yet another character that was immensely popular in the early 90s, you know. And this miniseries here, the reason why I love it so, is that it is drawn by John Romita Jr., JR, you know, and the inking is by Dan Green, you know, highly underranked inker, you know, but you know he's done, you know, marvelous work. You know, his brush and pen, you know, have done wonders on, you know, JR stuff, as well as a great run with him and pencil Mark Silvestri, another Image founder, when Silvestri was drawing Wolverine as well as Uncanny X-Men. You know, I love that stuff on there. You know, Green is just, you know, he gets the job done, but there's that something about his pen work that just really makes that stuff pop. I mean, he's not one of those inkers where it's going to jump out at you, but he does just make those pencils for those particular pencilers just really sing. You know, enjoy his stuff. The other cool thing about, you know, these two issues is that on the inside front and back covers. So basically, if you were to take the covers off, which I did just to illustrate, you'll see that there is a poster on the reverse of the cover itself. So in issue 1, you have a cover drawn by JRGR, and it looks like it's inked by him too. I don't see any other inking credits, so that's cool. And then on issue 2, the inside poster is illustrated by Greg Capullo and inked by, looks like, Brad Venkata. So that's pretty neat. And you know, Capullo had actually taken over X-Force around this time, or he was getting ready to. I think he may have already been drawing it, but he had taken over around this time, so I could see his connection with doing a Cable pinup, you know, as well. And you know, the other thing about these books is how well designed that they're packaged. You know, when you look on the covers here, I love this stuff, and it's stuff you don't see anymore. In particular, you know, stuff like on this #1, you see that this stuff is probably hand lettered. You know, this blurb here, part 1 of 2, and then you got down here. At last, X-Force's mysterious leader in his own limited series. Look at that. That stuff right there. That hand lettering. Oh, that's great. I love that stuff. Man, same thing here on issue 2, the conclusion of Cable's greatest battle. You don't get stuff like that. I mean, you can. You know, The people who do the lettering now digitally, they can give you anything you want, but there's something about this hand lettering and putting it on the artwork that just does it for me. I love this stuff. And and to round out the package on these is that the covers, also having the posters on the reverse of them are both wraparounds, and that's one of the things that you can really see the influence of Image, creeping back to Marvel, and how both Marvel and DC had to react to what they were doing. So, Image, the guys over at Image were doing a lot of crazy stuff, as far as, those type of big wraparound covers. And then on the interiors, boom, of course there are going to be double page spreads. And this, to me, is where JRJR is really starting to reach the apex of his powers, just in terms of, these big blocky figures. They're almost like big bricks. To hear Romita Jr. say it, he was really starting to embrace that huge Kirby influence in his work. And, even in years past, with JRJR, he was working up to that. Like, his figure work was really getting very solid, as the years, progressed. And I think it really started to congeal once he did Daredevil, and then even more so once he started on Punisher Warzone, which I believe came out shortly before this cable miniseries. And oh man, that Punisher Warzone issues 1 through 6, some of my favorite JRJR stuff. Inked by Klaus Janson too. Whew. Man, gorgeous stuff. And his figures there, that's where you really start seeing this big, just solidity that he had. It looked like, it's almost like the way they described Kirby's figures, and in fact, Romita Jr.'s dad, John Romita Sr., even said that, look at Kirby's stuff. His characters have such weight to them and gravitas that it looked like if they fell over, they would crack the concrete. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a great way to describe JRJR stuff during this period, especially. Just look at the shape on these guys. And I'm not talking about this guy who's overweight. I'm not talking about out of shape. I'm talking about just look at his overall shape. You know what I'm saying? It's just basically boom. Then you have Cable here, boom, just one thing, and the influence of Image Comics is hugely apparent, just with the page compositions and the way that he's embracing not only the Kirby influence, but also you would say that he's trying to keep that continuity that Liefeld started with the character. Because I believe this character too, also the new Weapon X, who was also known as Kane, also was created during Liefeld's run as well. So Romita Jr., he's always been very good about that in terms of, when he gets the job, trying to honor, the characters as they are at that time, But yeah, man, this stuff is. Look at this, yeah. It's interesting. It's almost as if I wonder if in some ways Marvel was mandating that their pencilers start really trying to image it up, so to speak, in terms of their pages and whatnot. Because at this time, Image really was quickly becoming the number 3 publisher in the business, in the late 90s. We're talking here, this is 92. And I think around this time, they had actually become the number 2 publisher in the business, knocking DC out of the way for quite a bit. There we go. Got to do the page turn, But like I said about Quesada, you know, someone like Romita Jr. is also an artist who, if you have to turn the book, he makes it worth it. You know, he's able to really do, you know, those big spreads like that and keep it so dynamic. And the action in here too is fantastic as well. Man, this stuff is so cool. Oh, there's that page turn. And, you know, I can see how some people might get annoyed with that. But me, I think probably because I grew up, you know, and I came into comics around that time, it really doesn't bother me that much. Look how solid that is. Just, man. All right, so that's issue 1. And then got the wraparound for issue 2, of course. Yeah. And of course, ninjas. Man, you gotta have the ninjas and the Silver Samurai. Oh, man. You know, and I always loved the way that Romita Jr. would draw, like, when there had to be, like, quote-unquote cannon fodder, you know, like a bunch of ninjas, or let's say a bunch of, you know, of AIM agents, you know, the guys with the big yellow buckets on their heads, you know, stuff like that. Romita Jr. seems to really excel at drawing, you know, that type of stuff. You know, if there's like a lot of people, you know, like so, if there's like a lot of stuff going on, Romita Jr. really takes a plum at drawing that stuff, you know. Man, this stuff is great. And the other thing about Romita Jr. as well is that he can really draw both your cosmic, your action-oriented, and your street, normal, everyday stuff. Like, he makes, you know, people sitting in a bar exciting as, like, these big, action-packed set pieces, you know? Like, the man can draw anything. Look at this. Look at this. Oh, man. Man, I'm getting so worked up, man, over this stuff. JRGR, he's one of the all-time favorites. He's one of the greats, you know, Hall of Fame, no doubt. Absolutely. Dang. He really packed a lot of two-page spreads in here, huh? Man. Dang. Man, this is great. But yeah, man, this stuff here. Yeah. All right. So that is Cable, the miniseries 1 and 2 by John Romita Jr. and Dan Green. So hey, look, guys. Once again, that is an episode of Escape to the Quarter Bins. And as always, I remain your host, Adrian Johnson. Hey, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel here on Inazuma Studios. And I got a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Inazuma Studios. For just $1 a month, you can support the channel and just keep this go-kart rolling. Peace.